day 8 of the plan. So, it doesn't feel like you've done much really for me to do. But if you look closely, try to get this line up. So see this blackboard? That's how much of the Bible we've made it through so far. Not too bad for 7 days of work. Stayed there. So I'm going reading 29, 30, 31, and 32. So this has the potential to be another bit of a long day. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pages. Like 6.5, but still. So let's just get started because this video is already a minute long. Jacob meets Rachel. Genesis chapter 29. Jacob resumed his journey and went to the eastern country. He looked up and saw a well in the field. 3 flocks of sheep were lying there beside it. The sheep were watered from this well, but a large stone covered the opening of the well. The shepherds would roll the stone from the opening of the well and water the sheep when all the flocks were gathered there. They would return the stone to its place over the well's opening. Jacob asked the men at the well, "My brothers, where are you from?" "We are from Haran," they answered. "Do you know Laban, grandson of Nahor?" Jacob asked them. They answered, "We know him." Is he well?" Jacob asked. "Yes," they said. "And here is his daughter, Rachel, coming with the sheep." Then Jacob said, "Look, it is still broad daylight. It's no time for animals to be gathered. Water the flock, then go out and let them graze." They replied, "We can't until all the flocks have been gathered and the stone is rolled from the well's opening. Then we'll water the sheep." While he was speaking with them, Rachel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. As soon as Jacob saw his uncle Laban's daughter Rachel with his sheep, he went up and rolled the stone from the opening and watered his uncle Laban's sheep. Then Jacob kissed Rachel and wept loudly. Then he told Rachel that he was her father's relative, Rebekah's son. And she ran and told her father. Jacob deceived. When Laban heard the news about his sister's son Jacob, he ran to meet him, hugged him, and kissed him. Then he looked into his house, and Jacob told him all that had happened. Laban said to him, "Yes, you are my own flesh and blood." After Jacob had stayed with him in a month, I'm going to put this over the pause. After he stayed with him for a month, Laban said to him, And so Laban said to him, "Just because you are my relative, you work for me for nothing. Tell me, what wages should be?" Now Laban had 2 daughters. The older was named Leah, and the younger was named Rachel. Leah had tender eyes, but Rachel was shapely and beautiful. Jacob loved Rachel, so she answered Laban, "I'll work for you 7 years for your younger daughter Rachel." Laban replied, "Better that I give her to you than some other man. Stay with me." So Jacob worked 7 years for Rachel, and it seemed only a few days to him because of his love for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, "Since my time is complete, give me my wife so I can sleep with her." So Laban invited the men of the place and sponsored a feast. That evening Laban took his daughter Leah and gave her to Jacob, and he slept with her. And Laban gave his slave Silpah to his daughter Leah as her slave. When the morning came, there was Leah. So he said to Laban, "What is this you have done to me? Wasn't it for Rachel that I worked for you? Why have you deceived me?" Then Laban answered, "It's not my custom in the place to give the younger daughter to marriage for the firstborn. Complete this week of wedding celebration, and also give your younger one returning and get another 7 years for me." And Jacob did just that. He finished the week of celebration, and Laban gave him his daughter Rachel as his wife. And Laban gave his slave Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her slave. Jacob slept with Rachel also, and indeed he loved Rachel more than Leah, and he worked for Laban another 7 years. Jacob's sons. And the Lord saw that Leah was unloved. He opened her womb, but Rachel was unable to conceive. Leah conceived, gave birth to a son, and named him Reuben. For she said, "The Lord has seen my affliction. Surely my husband will love me now." She conceived again, gave birth to a son, and said, "The Lord heard that I am unloved, and has given me the son also." So she named him Simon. She conceived again, gave birth to a son, and said, "At last my husband will become attached to me, because I have borne 3 sons to him." Therefore his name was Levi. And she conceived again, gave birth to a son, and said, "This time I will praise the Lord." Therefore she named him Judah. Then Leah stopped having children. When Rachel saw that she was not bearing Jacob any children, she envied her sister. "Give me sons or I'll die," she said to Jacob. Jacob became angry with Rachel and said, "I'm in God's place, who withheld offspring from you." Then she said, "Here is my maid Bilhah. Go sleep with her, and she'll bear children for me, so that through her I can build a family." So Rachel gave her slave Bilhah to Jacob as a wife, and she slept with her. Bilhah conceived, and bore Jacob a son. Rachel said, "God has vindicated me, as she has heard me and given me a son." So she named him Dan. Rachel's slave Bilhah conceived again, and bore Jacob a second time. Rachel said, "In my wrestlings with God I have wrestled with my sister and won." She named him Naphtali. When Leah saw that she had stopped having children, then she took her slave Silpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Leah's slave Silpah bore Jacob's son. Then Leah said, "What good fortune!" and she named him Gad. When Leah's slave Silpah bore Jacob a second son, Leah said, I'm happy with that the woman called me happy." So she named him Asher. Reuben went out during wheat harvest and found some mandrakes in the field. When she brought them to his mother Leah, Rachel asked, "Please give me some of your son's mandrakes." But Leah replied to her, "Isn't it enough that you've taken my husband? Now you also want to take my son's mandrakes?" "Well then," Rachel said, "he can sleep with you tonight in exchange for your son's mandrakes." When Jacob came home from the field that evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, "You must come with me, for I have hired you with my son's mandrakes." So Jacob slept with her that night. God listened to Leah, and she conceived and bore Jacob a fifth son. Leah said, "God has rewarded me for giving my slave to my husband." She has named him Issachar. Then Leah conceived again and bore Jacob a sixth son. "God has given me a good gift," Leah said. "This time my husband will honor me, because I have borne 6 sons for him," and she named him Zebulun. Later Leah bore a daughter and named her Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel. He listened to her and opened her womb. She conceived and bore a son. She said, "God has taken away my disgrace." She named him Joseph and said, "May the Lord add another son to me." Jacob's flocks multiply. After Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on my way so I can return to my homeland. Give me my wives and children that I have worked for, and let me go. You know how hard I have worked for you." But Laban said to you, "If I have found favor with you, stay. I have learned by divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you." Then Laban said, "Name your wages, and I will pay them." So Laban said to him, "You know how I have served you, and how your herds have fared with me. For you had very little before I came, but now your wealth has increased. The Lord has blessed you because of me, and now when I will also do something for my own family." Laban asked, "What shall I give you?" And Jacob said, "You don't need to give me anything. If you do this one thing for me, I will continue to shepherd and keep your flocks." Okay, and so basically stopped at, "When will I also do something for my own family?" Laban asked, "What should I give you?" And Jacob said, "You don't need to give me anything. If you do this one thing for me, I'll continue to shepherd and keep your flock. Let me go through all your sheep today and remove every sheep that is speckled or spotted, every dark colored sheep among the lambs, and spotted and speckled among the female goats, such will be my wages. In the future, when you come to check on my wages, my honesty will testify for me. If I have any female goats that are not speckled or spotted, or any lambs that are not black, they will be considered stolen. Good, said Laban. Let that be as you said. And that day Laban removed the streaks, spotted male goats, and all the speckled and spotted female goats, every one that had any white on it, and every dark-colored one among the lambs. He placed his sons in charge of them. He put a 3-day journey between himself and Jacob. Jacob, meanwhile, was shepherding the rest of Laban's flock. Jacob then took branches of fresh poplar, almond, and plain wood and peeled the bark, exposing the white strips on the branches. He set the peeled branches in the trough in front of the sheep, in the water channels where the sheep and the water. Come on, getting some messages. I keep on losing my spot. Oh no. I didn't hit and pause, so I have no clue where I am at. I think I'm at Jacob's flock multiply, where it's after. I'm going to read this really fast, and try to catch up. After Rachel gave birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Send me on the way so I can return to my homeland. Give me my wives and my children that I work for, and let me go. You know that as hard as I have worked for you." But Laban said to him, I found favor if you stay. I have learned that divination that the Lord has blessed me because of you." Then Laban said, "Name your wages, and I will pay them." So Jacob said to him, "You know how I have served you, and how your herds have fared with me. For you have very little before I came, but now your wealth has increased. The Lord has blessed you because of me. And now, when I also do something for my own family." Laban asked, "What should I give you?" And Jacob said, "You don't need to give me anything if you do this one thing for me. I will continue to shepherd and keep your flock. Let me go through all your sheep today, and remove every sheep that's speckled or spotted, every dark-colored sheep among the lambs, the spotted and speckled among the female goats. Such will be my wages. In my future..." Oh, this is so good. "Such will be my wages. In the future, when you come to check on my wages, my honesty will testify for me. If I have any female goats that are not speckled or spotted, or any lambs that are not black, they will be considered stolen." "Good," said Laban. Let it be as you said." That day Laban removed the streaked and spotted male goats and all the speckled spotted female goats, every one that had any white on it, and every dark-colored one among the lambs, and he placed his sons in charge of them. But a 3-day journey between himself and Jacob. Jacob, meanwhile, was shepherding the rest of Laban's flock. Jacob then took branches of fresh poplar, almond, and plain wood. He peeled the bark, exposing white strips of the branches. He set the peeled branches on the troughs in front of the sheep, in the water canals where the sheep came to drink. And the sheep bred when they came to drink. The flock spread in front of the branches and bore streaked, speckled, and spotted young. Jacob separated the lambs and made the flocks face the streaked sheep and completely dark sheep in Laban's flocks. Then he set his own stock apart and didn't put them with Laban's sheep. Whenever the stronger of the flock were breeding, Jacob placed the branches in the troughs, in full view of the flocks, and they would breed in front of the branches. As for the weaklings of the flocks, he did not put the branches, so it turned out that the weak sheep belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones to Jacob. And the man became very rich, and he had many flocks, female, males, slaves, and camels and donkeys. Jacob separates from Laban. But Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, "Jacob's taken what his father's and has built his wealth from what belonged to our father." And Jacob saw that Laban's face and his attitude toward him was not the same as before. The Lord said to him, "Go back to the land of your fathers and your family, and I will be with you." Jacob had Rachel and Leah called to the field where his flocks were. He said to them, "I can see from your father's face that his attitude toward me is not the same as before, but the God of my father has been with me. You know that with all my strength I have served your father, and that he has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. God has not let him harm me. If he said the spotted sheep will be my wages, then all the sheep were born spotted. Then he said the streaked sheep will be your wages. Then all sheep were born streaked. God has taken away your father's herds and given them to me. When the flocks were breeding, I saw a dream, and the streaked, spotted, and speckled males were mating with females. In the dream, the angel of God said to me, Jacob, and I said, Here I am. And he said, Look up and see, all the males that are mating with the flocks are streaked, spotted, and speckled. For I have seen all that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you poured oil on stone marker and made a solemn vow to me. Get up, leave this land, and return to your native land. Then Rachel and Leah answered him, Do we have any portion of inheritance to our father's family? Are we not regarded by him as outsiders? For he sold us and certainly spent our purchase price. In fact, all the wealth God has taken away from our father belongs to us and our children. So do whatever God has said to you. So Jacob got up and put his children and wives on camels. He took all the livestock and possessions he had acquired in Padan Aram and drove herds to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. Laban had gone to shear his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols, and Jacob deceived Laban therein, not telling them that he is fleeing. He fled of all his possessions, crossing the Euphrates and heading for the hill country of Gilead. Laban overtakes Jacob. On the third day, Laban was told that Jacob had fled, so he took his relatives with him, received Jacob for 7 days, and overlooked him in the hill country of Gilead. But God came with Laban in a dream and last night. Watch yourself, God warned him. Don't say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. When Laban overtook Jacob, Jacob pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban and his relatives also pitched their tents in the hill country of Gilead. Laban also said to Jacob, What have you done? You have deceived me and taken my daughters away from prisoners of war. Why did you secretly flee from me, deceive me, and not tell me? I would have sent you away with joy and singing and tambourines and lyres, but you didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and daughters. You have acted foolishly. I could do you great harm, but last night the God of your father said to me, Watch yourselves, don't say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Now you have gone off because you long for your father's family. But why have you stolen my gods? Jacob answered, I was afraid, for I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. If you find your gods, if anyone here, he will not live. Before our relatives point out anything that's yours and take it. Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the idols. So Laban said to Jacob, Went in Jacob's tent, Leah's tent, and the tents of the two concubines, but he found nothing. When he left Leah's tent, he went to Rachel's tent. Now Rachel had taken Laban's household idols, put them in the saddlebag of camel, and sat on them. Laban searched the whole tent, but found nothing. She said to her father, Don't be angry with my lord, that I cannot stand up in your presence, but I am having my period. So Laban searched but could not find the household idols. Jacob's covenant with Laban. Then Jacob became incensed and brought charges against Laban. What is my crime? He said to Laban. What is my sin that you have pursued me? You searched my possessions. Have you found anything of yours? Put in here my relatives, yours, and let them decide between the two of us. I have been with you 20 years, using female goats, and not miscarried, and I have not eaten the rams of your flock. I did not bring any flock torn by wild beasts, but I myself bore the loss. You demanded payment from me for what was stolen by day or night. Therefore I was, and the heat consumed me by the day, and frost by night, and sleep fled in my household eyes. For 20 years in your household I served you, 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flocks, and you have changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, the fear of Isaac, has not been with me, certainly now this would have sent me off empty-handed. But God has seen my affliction and my hard work, and he issued a verdict last night. Then Laban answered Jacob, The daughters are my daughters, the sons are my sons, and the flocks my flocks. Everything see is mine. But what can I do for today that these daughters are mine, or the children they have borne? Come now, let's make a covenant, and I will be witness between two of us. So Jacob picked up a stone and set as a marker. Then Jacob said to his relatives, Gather stones, and they took stones and made a mound. Then they ate there by the mound. Laban said to Mount Jegar Sahadutha, but Jacob named it Galeed. Then Laban said, This mound is a witness between you and me today. Therefore the place was called Galeed. Also Mizpah, he said, May the Lord watch between you and me and work to each other's sides. If you mistreat my daughters or take other wives, though no one's with us, understand that God will witness between you and me. Laban also said to Jacob, Look up at this mountain marker I set up between you and me. This mound is a witness, and the marker is a witness that I will not pass beyond the mound to you, and you will not pass beyond the mound and this marker to harm The God of Abraham, the gods of Nahor, the gods of their fathers will judge between us. And Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and invited all his relatives to eat a meal. So they ate a meal and spent the night in the mountain. Laban got up early in the morning, kissed his grandchildren and daughters, and blessed them. Then Laban returned to his home, preparing to meet Esau. Jacob went on his way, and God's angels met him. When he saw them, Jacob said, "This is God's camp." So he called that place Mahanaim. Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the territory of Edom. He commanded them, "You are to say to my lord Esau, this is what your servant Jacob says. I have been staying with Laban and have been delayed until now. I have oxen, donkeys, flocks, and male and female slaves. I have sent this message to inform you, Lord, never to seek your favor." And the messengers returned to Jacob. They said, "We went to your brother Esau. He is coming to meet you, and he has 400 men with him." Jacob was greatly afraid and distressed. He divided people with him into 2 camps, along with flocks, herds, camels. He thought, if Esau comes one camp and attacks, then the remaining one can escape. Then Jacob said, "God my father Abraham, God my father Isaac, the Lord who said to me, 'Go back to your land to the family, and I'll cause you to prosper.' I am unworthy of the kindness and faithfulness you have shown your servant. Indeed, I crossed over Jordan with my staff, and now I have become 2 camps. Please rescue me from my brother Esau, for I am afraid of him. Otherwise he may come and attack me. The mothers and their children you have make your offspring like the sand of the sea, too numerous to be counted." He spent the night there and took part of what he had brought to him as a gift for brother Esau: 200 male goats, 220 rams, 30 milk camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. He entrusted them to his slaves as separate herds and said to them, "Go on ahead of me, give some instructions to the herds, and tell the first one, 'My brother Esau meets you and asks, who do you belong to? Where are you going?' And those who are ahead of you. And then you tell him, 'You belong to the servant Jacob. They are gifts sent by Lord Esau.'" And he looked, he is behind us. He also told the second one, "Third one, everyone who is walking behind animals, say the same thing to Esau when you find him. You are to also say, 'Look, your servant Jacob is right behind us.' For he thought, I want to appease Esau, the gift that is going ahead of me. After that, I can face him. Also, perhaps he'll forgive me." So the gift was sent ahead of him while he reigned in camp during the night. Oh no. Okay. Sorry about that. So Jacob put his children and wives and camels, took all the livestock and possessions, he departed Padan-aram and drove his herds to the land of Canaan to his father Isaac. When Laban had gone to shear sheep, Rachel still her father's house of Isles, and Jacob deceived Laban. Wait, no, this is the wrong one. Okay. Servant said, "You also said, 'Look, your servant Jacob's right behind us,' for you." So the gift was sent ahead of him while he reigned in camp that night. During the night, Jacob got on and took 2 wives to save women and 11 sons and crossed the ford of Jabbok. He took them and sent them across the stream along with all his possessions. Jacob wrestled with God. Jacob was alone and wrestled until daybreak. That he could not defeat him, he struck Jacob's hip socket and wrestled and dislocated his hip. Then he said to Jacob, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." "What is your name?" the man asked. "Jacob," he replied. "Your name will no longer be Jacob," he said. "It will be Israel, because you have struggled with God and the men and have prevailed." Then Jacob asked him, "Please tell me your name." But he answered, "Why do you ask my name?" And he blessed him. Jacob then went to the place of Peniel, for he had seen God face to face, and he said, "Yep, my life has been spared. The sun shone on him as he passed by Peniel, limping because of his hip. That is why still today the Israelites don't eat the thigh muscle that is at the hip socket, because he struck Jacob's hip and the thigh muscle." Okay, so I barely finished today, but that's all. I don't have time to go over today again. It's 9:03. Remember, God loves you. Goodbye.